got Simon. This is Wrestling Unlimited. As tonight was AEW Worlds End from, I want to say, the Now Arena in Chicago, Illinois. And I thought this was a really, really good show. I thought it flowed very well. I thought the whole show was, for the most part, good from start to finish. There were, like, the Women's World Title match with Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter. Never got into that. I'm like, these two are just having a match, going through the motions. That's what it felt like to me. The crowd was dead for most of it, didn't really care. It was just off. I felt like the match was off. And that was the one match of the night where I was just kind of not fully invested in. And maybe it's because I just didn't care going in for that match. But then they didn't do anything to get me pulled in and sucked in while having their match. And it felt like they didn't with the crowd either. It's only like the crowd really felt like they were sitting on their hands. And when they do a big move or something would happen per se, then they'd slightly react. But that was the one, I guess you would say, lull match, I guess. I didn't see the pre-show. But speaking of the pre-show, this was, I want to say, one of the shorter AEW pay-per-views with, 9 matches on the main card. And how many do we have on the pre-show? Because I didn't see the pre-show. But so it was 13 matches in total. But with the pre-show starting at I did the math wrong. It's on par with normal AEW pay-per-views. Never mind. I did the math wrong. The main show started at 7 Eastern. The pre-show started at 6. I got that wrong. I thought the pre-show started at 7. So I was like, oh, this show's an hour shorter than normal. Never mind. I'm wrong now that I think about it. But just quickly on the pre-show stuff, Sisters of Sin defeated Hyen and Maya World. Eddie Kingston defeated Zach Gibson. Masquerade Dorada and Bandito defeated the Don Callis families, Mark Davis and Rocky Romero. And then Jet Speed with Jurassic Express defeated Josh Alexander and The Demand. I did see parts of that match, but I didn't see enough of that match to get notes on. So I did see there was... So there and Don, this was fucking weird. It's Don Callis. What do you expect? But Don was cutting a promo before that match about where it was the Don Callis family against Jet Speed and Jurassic Express. And he's like, he said something about, you got to take that dinosaur down. Clip his nuts. I'm like, what? He said, clip his nuts. I'm like, you crazy Don Callis, which it's Don. He's got no filter. He's going to say whatever. But overall, I thought this was a really, really good show from basically start to finish. Again, like I said, for me, there was only one lull match. And like there was other things that was like my personal preference, what I like was kind of just what like the mixed nuts match, I think is what it was called. The mixed nuts match. Like that was just a party match to do stuff. That's not my favorite style of match where you just throw people out there to throw people out there and just do a bunch of stuff. But from that style of match, they worked it very, very well. And then we also had the World Tag Title match, FTR versus Bang Bang Gang in a street fight. Now, granted, I don't watch Collision, so I didn't know why this match was a street fight. Didn't hear commentary explain why it was a street fight. If I missed that, please tell me. And, excuse me. And, so like that match as well, I was kind of just like, no, this match is fine. It's all right. Again, because it was something I wasn't invested in because I don't watch Collision, so I didn't see any of the build to it. But with all of that, I want to say thank you for joining us here. Twitch.tv/PWU Unlimited, YouTube.com/Pro Wrestling Unlimited, and podcast services all around the globe like Stitcher, Spotify, Google Pod, Apple Pod, Anchor, iHeartRadio, and so much more. Remember, if you're watching live on Twitch, you can help us out a couple of different ways. You can either help us out by hitting that donate button down below or by donating Twitch bits in a live chat. Let's center this camera a little better. Also, remember, you can help us out by subscribing to the channel one of 2 different ways. You can either subscribe with a tiered subscription, or you can subscribe with Amazon Prime. Because remember, if you have Amazon Prime, then you have Prime Gaming. Prime Gaming gives you a lot of cool things like free games, free stuff for games, and you always get 1 free subscription to any Twitch channel you want to subscribe to throughout the month. And I greatly appreciate it if you did right here, Pro Wrestling Unlimited. Also, remember, help us out over on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. That way you know when we post new videos, when we go live, and when we post to the community tab. Also, remember, if you want to support us in another way, you can hit the join button and become a channel member. As a channel member, you get a badge next to your name, emotes, and emojis that you can use in the live chat, and access to our graphics packages. You also get that over at patreon.com/PW Unlimited. And also, if you want to get your comment, question, or concern read live on the air, you can do so by donating a super chat in the live chat. Epic Game Store. Head over to the Epic Game Store and buy something. Whether you're buying a new game, whether you're buying an old game, whether you're claiming a free game or getting bucks for Rocket League, Fortnite, or Fall Guys, use our code PW Unlimited at checkout, and you will be supporting us at no epic cost. No extra cost. Sorry, I was literally looking at the thing that said Epic Game Store, so I said no epic cost. Also, if the stream buffered there for a moment, I had an internet hiccup. But with that, whether you're getting that new iShow Speed skin in Fortnite, maybe you're getting some of the games that are on sale right now, like Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, use our code PW Unlimited. That's PWU NLIMITED for all Epic Games and Epic Game Store purchases. With that, I'm going to hit this fan. It's getting a little warm in here. Let's talk AEW. With that, as far as the show does go, they kicked it off with 2 Continental Classic matches because, of course, 2 men were working double. So they had to get their first matches in early, so that way when they had to come back later, it was all good. Now, as far as, and give me 2 seconds to pull up the Wikipedia, so I have match times. You know, I never get the match times myself. So, match time. So this first match was Yosei Takeshita versus Kazuchika Okada. And I'm actually going to read Esports Gaming Rules bit donation first, because it kind of ties into this match. He says, quote, "Do you think Takeshita interfere in Okada's match at Wrestle Kingdom 20 in Tokyo Dome, or does NJPW don't want the AEW drama because Wrestle Kingdom 20 is Tanahashi's final match and it's Tony Khan showing up the Tokyo Dome?" So that's a layered thing. I don't think Takeshita gets involved at all. I don't think Takeshita gets involved with the Okada Tanahashi match, and I don't think, you didn't ask this, but I'll just say it, I don't think Okada gets involved in the IWGP title match with Takeshita and Yoshitsuji. I just don't think they're going to intermingle any of that. And not just because, you know, it's Tanahashi's final match and they don't want any, you know, bullshit or chicanery or anything like that. It's just, I just don't think that's something for those matches New Japan would want, regardless of any storylines in AEW. Now, if this was a cross-branded New Japan AEW show like they did last year with Wrestle Dynasty, that's a completely different story than probably. But because this is just a New Japan show, it's all New Japan stuff, I don't think we're going to get any intermingling, I guess you would say. And they said, do you think Tony Khan is showing up Tokyo Dome? Like, you think he's going to be at the Tokyo Dome? I have no clue. I doubt it, but who knows? Maybe to be there for Tanahashi? I don't know. This man's got millions of dollars. He can show up anywhere he wants at any time. And he also says, where's Chris Jericho? Is there now a possible that he shows up in WWE now that Royal Rumble Riyadh is getting closer and he possibly no longer in AEW? Well, that's been the growing and going assumption for months now. That the reason, and we've seen this, and there's precedence for this theory, the reason that Chris Jericho has not been on AEW television for months is because he's leaving the company and going to WWE. We see this a lot. When Tony Khan feels like he's got a wrestler that is not going to resign and could potentially go to WWE, he ices them. He takes them off TV. He boots them away and says, all right, you're going to sit at home and I'm going to pay you while your contract runs out. Because he doesn't want them. And the only one that I can remember that we knew was leaving that he didn't do this with was Andrade. But he wants them to get, I guess you would say, almost forgotten about by the fan base. So, yeah, that's Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is not being used by AEW because it's most likely that he's leaving. And many believe that he's leaving and going to WWE. And it's been that since like July, August. People have really been like, yeah, Jericho's probably leaving AEW. And then within the last 2 months or so, it's like, yeah, people in WWE are kind of expecting it. And I don't think I think he's in the Rumble, but I don't think he returns at the Rumble. I think there's a good chance he returns the week before a Saturday night's main event in Montreal. Now, hear me out. if someone's going to be traveling to Saudi for the Royal Rumble, there's a good chance it's going to get spotted. There's a good chance it's going to get spoiled ahead of time because they're traveling to Saudi. So you're better off bringing him the week before as a big surprise and having him officially announce himself for the Royal Rumble. That's what I would do. That's just my assumption, my prediction, the way I would, my fantasy booking of it all. Heck, if they really want to go big on this January 5th Raw, have him show up there. If Jericho's contract is up the end of the year, if he's a free man on January 1st, January 5, he's good to be on Raw. I just think you wait. You do it in Montreal. You can say you return to WWE in Canada, and it's a whole thing. So, yeah. But as far as this show and the first match does go, bell sounds and the crowd's already on their feet because they know we're going to get a good one. And we did get a good one until the stupid ass finish. So they go for a handshake. Takeshita slapped it away. Remember, Don Callis could not be, quote-unquote, at ringside because it's a Continental Classic match, but he could be at ringside because he was on commentary. So he was there as a commentator. The crowd was split, but there was one chant that they all did agree on because there was like, let's go Okada Takeshita, let's go Okada Takeshita. But then there was the fuck Don Callis, fuck Don Callis. Each man traded shoulder blocks, but neither budged. Both traded Rainmakers and power drive knee attempts, but no dice. Takeshita then finally connected with the Takeshita line. Takeshita worked over the shoulder. The long legs of Okada got a rope break and a chance to take a powder. Takeshita wouldn't allow it and was right on him after Okada charged, only to take a drop toe hold into a chair and spiked with a DDT on the floor. At one point, Okada was down, but with a smile on his face. Takeshita was down. Okada had the smile on his face, and he went for a cover. Okada then went for a third, only this time, Takeshita put the brakes on and really worked for a standing suplex. Okada then avoided a Takeshita line, but not the head scissors, and took him down again to the outside. Got taken down again to the outside. Takeshita built up a head of steam and connected on a tope before taking a good look at the Continental Championship at ringside. Back inside the ring, there was a haluva kick that led to Takeshita keeping Okada grounded until Okada went for the eyes to get free. There were multiple boots from the corner that led to an air raid crash on his knees as Okada slammed Takeshita down and followed it up with a zero elevation elbow knee. I say zero elevation because it's one of those ones where it kind of just falls with it. There was a middle finger to the crowd and to Takeshita, but as Takeshita rose up, Okada still was flipping him off, leading to a forearm exchange, rocking each man. At one point, Okada got wrist control after a Blue Thunder bomb, and both men were down. He went for the Rainmaker, but Takeshita no-sold it, so Okada threw another, and Takeshita collapsed. Holding on, Okada went for another, but Takeshita fired off a forearm of his own. Each traded backslides, and Takeshita missed a power drive knee to the corner, allowing Okada to hit a German suplex. He maintained wrist control, and Okada tried a Rainmaker, but Takeshita got a Cazadora roll for a close two. Each traded elbows and shotgun drop kicks as Takeshita charged in, only right into Okada's drop kick. Takeshita then dodged another Rainmaker, but this time into a nasty Poison Rana and a power drive knee, but Okada kicked out. As you come towards the finish of the match here, Okada went to the corner, and he went to grab something from the turnbuckle. Like, not the pad, but the pad on the bar behind the pad. And it was a screwdriver. And I'm like, oh, okay. The Don Callis family screwdriver. Then they kind of messed up the spot, it felt like, where Takeshita ducked the initial charge of it. And I think they were supposed to... Okada was supposed to knock the referee. I don't know exactly what happened here, but it looked all weird because then the referee kind of like backed into the corner, but he's not knocked down or anything. No one touched him. And then he kind of just goes over to the ropes and starts looking at ringside, just looking down at ringside while Okada hits Takeshita with the screwdriver. Like the ref just intentionally, I'm supposed to not be looking right now. Time's up. All right. Okada pins him and wins and advances to the finals. The finish here, I don't know if it was messed up. I don't know if it was booked to look so wonky, but it sucked. It was a phenomenal match with a shitty finish. Very, Very bad finish. And so this allows Okada to win, move on to the finals to take on either Jon Moxley or Kyle Fletcher. As we learned, it's Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley. So I thought this was a great match. They went, let's get the time here, 17 minutes and 25 seconds. Which the next match, Jon Moxley and Kyle Fletcher went 22:35. I thought that match felt a little shorter. But at the same time, and I'll get to it, all the big move kick out, big move kick out, big move kick out, big move kick out did make it start feeling long, though. Where it's like, okay, you're doing a little too many of these now. You hit the ship. Now let's reel her in and bring it home. So during the entrances for our next match, Renee Paquette was at ringside saying, despite the previous semifinal involving two of his best friends, he never watched a second of their build-up. As he's been, they're talking about Kyle Fletcher, I believe, as he's been focused on studying Moxley. Basically, she's like, Kyle Fletcher doesn't care about anything that doesn't have to do with his matches. If it's not one of his opponents or his next opponent or whatever, he don't care. And so he didn't care about watching the first match here tonight. All he wanted to do was keep worrying about Moxley and not have to think about anything else, which is a smart way to go about it, where you're like, I'm just going to hyper-focus on my opponent, and then I'll figure out who I'm going to have to face later if I do win, which he still didn't. So I did see a little bit of discourse online from this match, where some fans thought that it was weirdly paced. Some fans thought that, it was Moxley did everything from Kyle Fletcher and then squaring him off at the end, But, fuck. So, yeah, very, very weird. And did we just... No, we're back. We're back. I'm still having internet. Give me 1 second, guys, to see if it's me or my actual internet. Give me 1 second, because we just flipped, or not flipped, but had a little flub with the internet. So let me go and check my internet real fast. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to go BRB for a second, guys. I was going to say starting soon for a second. I'm going to go just check one quick thing. Thank you there, Fonzie. I was muted. Back to what I was saying. Kyle Fletcher versus Jon Moxley. Bryan Danielson said that it was interesting that Moxley was booed for most of the year, but got cheered by the fans here tonight. He said maybe that's because A, he ain't with Death Riders tonight, and B, we know that there's not going to be any Death Rider shenanigans. But Fletcher slowed the pace down early, trying to frustrate Moxley, as the stalling only pissed him off. He went after Fletcher, lighting him up with the forearm into the barricade and the commentary table. Back inside, Fletcher immediately hit a snap slam and posed for the crowd before going to work. There was a brief moment here as Moxley quickly hit a corner splash and chucked Fletcher back outside, where he quickly followed it with a running boot. At one point, Moxley just comes out bleeding from the mouth. And I want to say he may have messed up one of his front teeth because that's what it looked like. I'm not 100% sure, but commentary said it too. Looked like maybe he chipped a tooth. I don't know, but Moxley was bleeding from the mouth. He fires off a desperation cutter, sending Fletcher to the outside yet again. Moxley tried to dive, got enough of it. Got just enough of it. But the bad leg didn't allow him to take off really well. He's selling that leg a lot. Remember, he's got the ankle issue. He was taking too much time to follow up back inside. Fletcher hit a quick Michinoku driver and got a near fall off of it. Fletcher tried some trash talking, which only woke Moxley up as he no-sold a clothesline and turned Fletcher inside out with one of his own. Both men slowly rose up and traded forearms until Moxley fired off a shotgun dropkick and corner punches until Fletcher sent Moxley over the top rope very awkwardly. They made it seem like his bad ankle got caught on the top rope, but then he was like holding on weird and then eventually just let go and fell. It was kind of weird. I don't know. But Fletcher wanted to go for a PK, penalty kick, but it was blocked with his legs swept out from under him. Moxley then tried a curb stomp and missed, giving Fletcher a chance to destroy Moxley with the brain buster on the apron. And yeah, Moxley then seemed a little happy about that one. Fletcher then demanded referee Bryce Remsburg. Well, no, not Moxley. I take that back. Moxley seemed weird on that one. Like he had this I'm out of it look, which is very memeable. Like if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And Fletcher jumps in the ring, sits in the corner, and tells the referee, count him out. And they do one of my most hated spots. I get it. It makes sense, but I think it doesn't make sense. It makes sense in pro wrestling, but it doesn't make sense in real fighting, if you get what I'm saying. To where it's like the ref's counting 8, 9. His hands go up to say 10, and all of a sudden the guy that's been dead and not moving for 9.5 seconds all of a sudden jumps up and slides in the ring out of nowhere. One of my most hated spots in pro wrestling. I get it in pro wrestling. It's building up the drama, and then you're like, oh, this guy barely made it in. But if this was a real fight, he wouldn't have barely made it in. He wouldn't have gotten up all of a sudden at the last second. He would have been stirring early or not moving at all and get counted out. Moxley just beats the count, but rolled right into an awaiting Liger bomb. Huge Liger bomb. Like he was slammed hard by Kyle Fletcher. Fletcher then sank in a half crab after only getting a 2 off the Liger bomb, as the crowd really wanted Moxley to tap out most of the year. They were always chanting, you're going to tap out or you tapped out or whatever, tap, tap, tap. But this time they were cheering for him to get out. They're really building up that Moxley babyface turn, and it's working. Fletcher then cranked back so far that Moxley was able to get the bulldog choke, and Fletcher's face started to turn purple. Cranking the injured ankle, though, Fletcher broke free and got an ankle lock with a grapevine. Moxley swiped for all of his might to manage to get to the bottom ropes, and the crowd loudly chanted for him as he did so. Fletcher wanted his avalanche brainbuster, but Moxley bit at his head, slid out, crotched Fletcher, and hooked a rear naked choke, but had to break. So he switched to an avalanche cutthroat suplex, dropping Fletcher square on the top of his head, and this looked scary. It was one of those back suplex deals with how do you explain it? He's got the hand here, and then he's got the arm up here, and he shoves him back. But Fletcher, and hold on. Where are my figures? I got something. I only got one, but pretend this is Kyle Fletcher. If you didn't see it, Fletcher comes back from Moxley, takes this, and you would think he's supposed to over-rotate and land down like that, right? But instead, pretend my hands to the mat, Fletcher comes down, boom, like that. Stuffed, just did not look good. Holy crap. But he was fine. He jumped back up and kept on going. Square on the top of his head, though. Danielson questioned if they need more than referee Bryce Remsburg to check on Fletcher. Maybe they should call in not the police. Maybe they should call in the doctor. And they showed the replay multiple times, so yeah. Fletcher played off like he couldn't get to his feet at first, so Moxley delivered a curb stomp, completely spiking Fletcher, who nearly caught Moxley with a crucifix pin and got a 2 off of it. Where was I? Fletcher then exploded up, hit a thrust kick, and Moxley kicked out at 1 to the delight of the crowd. Only Fletcher met him with a haluva kick and a sheer drop brainbuster moments later. Moxley then kicked out early again. A defiant Jon Moxley stood up and flipped off Fletcher as we come towards the end of the match. He dropped him easily and then flipped the crowd off himself, with Bryce checking on Moxley here. Fletcher then scurried over to the corner and was looking for something. And he's like, where is it? Where is it? And he was looking for the screwdriver that Okada took in the previous match. So weird to think, was the screwdriver there only for Kyle Fletcher? Or was the screwdriver supposed to be left behind by Okada? Was he supposed to use it and then leave it behind? That's going to be the big question. Where did the screwdriver go? Why didn't Okada put it back? And was Okada even supposed to use it? But this allowed Moxley to actually kind of take advantage here. The distraction allowed a quick pin attempt by Moxley, but he only got a 2 off of it. There's a rear naked choke, which Fletcher countered into a 2. There's a paradigm shift that planted Fletcher, who kicked out a 2. There's a Death Rider that landed, but again, Fletcher kicked out. Moxley quickly locked in another rear naked choke. Fletcher rose to his feet, but started to fade and fade and fade, ultimately fading enough where Moxley would pick up the victory. Moxley would get the win as the referee basically said, he's out. He's out. You win. And moments later, Fletcher jumps up and he's yelling at the referee, I think it's Bryce Remsburg. I never tapped. I didn't give up. What was that? No, I didn't lose. I didn't give up. I didn't tap out. And he's like, you were out. You were out. And so there was this big discourse there with the referee and Kyle Fletcher where he's like, you said I was out, but I wasn't out. He thought he wasn't out. He thought, I didn't tap. I didn't give up. So what the hell are you doing here, ref? And I get it. I get it where you're upset because, yes, you didn't tap. But the referee has to take it into his discretion for your safety on if he thinks you've passed out or not, or you're losing consciousness enough to where you need to be saved yourself. That's the whole point of it. So Fletcher eventually gets out of the ring. Well, actually, he charged at Moxley first and chop blocked at the bad leg before walking off. Moxley then struggled to get to his feet. So they wanted you to think Moxley's got this even more bad leg going into the match later with Okada. But really good match. I thought this match was really, really fun. We then move on to a Chicago street fight for the AEW World Tag Team titles. It was FTR versus Bang Bang Gang's Juice Robinson and Austin Gunn. Again, it was just to me, it felt very random. Street fight. We're just like, hey, we're going to do a street fight for street fight's sake. We're just going to do one because we can. That's what it really felt like. This match itself did go 17 minutes on the dot, according to Wikipedia. But the bell sounds and the fight is on. The table immediately is set up against the barricade as Wheeler and Gunn fight up the ramp, while Robinson and Harwood fight in the crowd. Gunn launched Wheeler into the LED screens at the entrance until Gunn waffled in with the trash can. Taking way too long to follow up here, though. Gunn charged for a famouser, but ate a trash can shot to the face. Going back down the aisle, it looked like Wheeler was going to use a bottle, at least it seemed, but it shattered before anything could happen. Not sure what happened there. Harwood and Robinson then brawled back to ringside where Stokely had set up another table. Only Robinson hit a slingshot into the corner on Harwood before setting him onto the table and then going for a dive, but Wheeler returned and cut him off and hit an avalanche back suplex. They then placed a trash can over Austin Gunn and smacked it with kendo stick shots and then said, we're better than the White Sox. Because, most everyone's better than the White Sox, but they couldn't say we're better than the Cubs. Robinson then made the save, giving Gunn a chance to recover. At one point, Gunn crashed into the steps, telling Stokely, and then Wheeler told Stokely to grab a kendo stick. Harwood clobbered Robinson with the tag title belt as Wheeler swung for the fences with the kendo stick on Gunn, who blocked it and blocked with the trash can lid and smashed it into the face of Wheeler. He then placed it over his back. Gunn ran into Wheeler once with it, tried again, but Wheeler sidestepped, sending Gunn flying over to the announce table. There was a belt shot that busted open Juice as Wheeler chop blocked the leg, while Stokely kept handing FTR weapon after weapon. As they come towards the close of this match, Stokely tried to use the chair on Robinson, who easily blocked the shot, and Stokely ran for his life, saying, "I ain't part of this match." There was repeated chair shots to Harwood and a returning Wheeler, but Stokely again would get involved, trying to get the chair away. After a big tug-of-war with Juice, Juice sent Stokely off the apron, and so he looked like he was supposed to go through that table, but he missed. So, yeah, he just landed on the outside hard. There's a low blow by Harwood as Robinson turned it into a shatter machine, but Gunn broke the count. There's a famouser that missed by Gunn as Harwood hit a pile driver on the trash can, but then Gunn kicked out. FTR then quickly hit a spike pile driver, rolled through, placed the tag title down, hit another, and there we go. They busted open Austin Gunn, and pinned him to pick up the victory. The finish seemed a little rushed and kind of sloppy, but overall, I thought it was a fine match. It was a fine street fight, I guess you would say. FTR retain. I don't think anybody expected the Bang Bang Gang, especially this version of the Bang Bang Gang, just Juice and Austin, to win the titles at all. Esports Gaming Rules says MJF won the AEW World Championship and he wants his ring back. Now, did he say that? I haven't seen anything post-show. Like, as soon as the show went off the air, I cut it off, didn't see anything else. You say he wants his ring back. Oh, no. Don't tell me on January 14th, when he defends the world title against Bandito, it's going to be title versus ring. He's going to beat Bandito. He's going to get that ring back, and he's still going to have the ring. Don't tell me that's what they do. Don't freaking tell me that's what they're going to... Oh, I can see it now. MJF's getting that ring back when he's going to make Bandito put the ring on the line to get the title shot or something. Fuck. Esports Gaming Rules also says, what's the whole point of the downfall of Monet's story now? She now just lose every title she holds. Basically, she's going to keep getting opportunities and have big matches. And so she's either going to lose those opportunities now, or she's going to start losing her titles, which we saw she lost those 2 titles, which technically is 1, but it's 2 titles to Alex Windsor. She lost tonight. She's putting the title on the line this Wednesday against the TBS title against Willow. Does she lose that title? I don't know, but I could see it happening. Esports Gaming Rule says the G1 Climax is better than the C2. That's 100% factual. For the fact that they tried to make the G1 and the Continental Classic seem equal, but they're not. Because the reason the Continental Classic, or the reason the G1 is such a, as they say, hard tournament to be in, is because you're wrestling multiple tournament matches a week. You're wrestling at least 2-3 matches a week in this tournament. In AEW, you're wrestle 1 a week. Sometimes there's guys that might wrestle 2, but it never, well, technically it is back-to-back nights because that's how they're filmed. But regardless, I think the G1 is the better tournament. It's got the history and the lineage and all that. It's been around for, I don't even know how many years, 30, maybe, something like that. But again, it's also the schedule is a harder schedule on the wrestlers in the tournament than the Continental Classic, where again, like I said, it's sometimes you have 2-3 matches in a week. If not, some years they've had more, to where in the Continental Classic, it's like usually 1 match a week. Sometimes, most of the time, it's maybe 2, but yeah. And that was it for the bit donations. Moving forward, another tag title match. It was the AEW Women's World Tag Title. Actually, it's the AEW Woman. No, how do they say it? It's weird. It's the AEW World Women's Tag Team Championships. So it was the Babes of Wrath, Willow Nightingale, and Harley Cameron, defending against the TBS champion Mercedes Moné and the ROH Women's World Champion Athena. So Moné had a cheap shot early on Cameron at the bell, but Nightingale was there with a series of corners clotheslines and a slingshot into Cameron with the kitchen sink. Athena and Moné then sidestepped 2 enziguris and connected on sliding attacks before sending both Cameron and Nightingale to the outside. Back inside the ring, Athena begged off on Cameron, but it was a way for Moné to get a blind side and a lung blower backstabber combo for a 2. Cameron was isolated until a DDT on Athena led to a double down and a chance for Nightingale to get the hot tag and run wild. It was a blind tag by Athena as Nightingale planted Monet with a spine buster, head scissors from Nightingale, but Athena landed on her feet and used the momentum to hit a wildly impressive spinning double knees for a 2. Athena then played to the crowd, resulting in Nightingale launching her with the pounce. Cameron got tagged in, running wild with the clothesline and just enough of a sling blade. I say that because you barely got that move in. Monet then cut Cameron off in the corner, but as she and Athena got up, Nightingale wiped both challengers out with a powerbomb. Cameron connected with a crossbody and a double crucifix on Athena and Monet before tagging in Nightingale. There's a soul food / spinning backdrop combo that connected, but Monet made the save here. Nightingale then tried a slingshot on Athena, who then turned it into an O-face on Cameron. This is a cool spot. There's a backstabber into a statement maker on a Nightingale, but as Monet wrenched back, Nightingale powered up into a Death Valley driver. Athena tried to break the count, but collided with her own partner as Monet got up, missed Nightingale, and decked Athena. Nightingale then squashed both in the corner with splashes and clotheslines before going to the top, only to be cut off. Athena used Monet to deliver a superplex powerbomb combo before an assisted gory bomb, but Cameron broke the count, leading to a double crossbody attempt from Cameron and Athena to reset the match. As we go to the end here, Athena fired off a series of kicks, but Cameron answered with her finisher. Monet then was up and dropped Cameron with the Monet Maker, tried to do the same to Willow, who countered it into a roll-up, flash pin 1, 2, 3. Mercedes takes the pin and loses for her team. So the Babes of Wrath are celebrating in the ring, and Mercedes is sitting on the apron, all kinds of like dejected and upset with herself. And Athena just comes up and looks at her and goes, like, what the hell was that? How'd you lose? You had it. Like, she's looking at her just like, what happened there? Like that, no, mad. She was mad. Athena was mad. So, and still women's tag team champions. More on this a little bit later when they interview a very, 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 very pissed off Monet. But moving forward, we had Darby Allin versus Gabe Kidd. This was your hardcore match. This was your we're going to brawl and beat the shit out of each other match. This was your, I wouldn't call it a death match because it wasn't really a death match, but it was we're two guys that like to just feel the pain and give the pain and fuck each other up. And by the end of this match, they were bleeding buckets. There were weapons used. And they were hurting. You could just tell. These men gave it their all and took their all. So we got a weird video opening things up with Darby. He showed him at like the hospital and whatnot. And it's just weird that Darby got hurt and wasn't cleared to be in the Continental Classic moving forward. And then he was just fine to be at this pay-per-view. So maybe they thought that it was worse than it was. And when they realized, oh no, Darby's not as bad as we think, let's still get him on the show somehow. But where was I? Gabe Kidd had a Death Rider special style entrance and violently threw Allin from the ring to the floor early on, clipping Allin's head on the apron in the process. So that didn't look good against Darby Allin, so maybe that was on purpose. Kidd took too long to follow up, giving Allin a chance to recover enough. He flew in with a dive and slammed Kidd's head repeatedly into the barricade. Allin broke the count, but even that delay allowed Kidd to shoot a double leg and tackle Allin over the top into the timekeeper's area. Kidd then placed Allin under the ring steps and hit a slingshot, causing both parts of the steps to fly. They came back up. They went up, and when they came back down, they hit Darby in the face again. So at this point, Darby was busted open. Of course. They're back in the ring here. Allin was brought up onto the apron, and Kidd, with a full head of steam, launched him headfirst into the ring post, causing Allin to do like a 360 into the cameraman. Allin then ducked a chair shot and drop kicked it into Kidd's face, causing him to start gushing blood. Allin then bit at the bloody head before placing Kidd on a chair and successfully connecting on a missile drop kick from the top. Now they're using all these weapons and they're fighting everywhere, and it's like, I never once heard that this was a street fight or a no DQ or whatever, so I thought I heard one commentator say something about this is as pure wrestling you can get or something like that. Like this is just straight up pro wrestling or something like that. So when they were doing all of this fighting on the outside and all of this weapon stuff, I was a little confused. But at the same time, it's AEW and rules never really matter. Most of the time, rules don't matter. So where was I? Back inside the ring, Kid launched Alan Clare across the ring with a shotgun dropkick and wanted an avalanche pile driver, but Alan bit at his face again, raking at his back and hit an avalanche code red for a 2. Alan quickly went up top and hit a coffin drop, but Kid wisely rolled outside. Alan again went up top and landed another coffin drop, this time to the floor, crushing Kid. There was puddles of blood all over the ring and outside the ring, and there was one time when Darby went for a dive to the outside, and so you see they do like this high shot. You see Gabe Kidd on the outside. Darby hits him with the dive. Gabe Kidd kind of falls to the side. Darby's head hits the floor. When Darby bounces back, you just see a pool of blood. But at one point, Kid kicked out of a pin, which led right into a Scorpion Death Drop. Allen applied a Scorpion Death Lock, and we basically got the Stone Cold WrestleMania 13 visual in the sharpshooter, bleeding buckets. Darby then slumped forward, and the hold was broken. Kid recovered battering ram style headbutts and a bounce back lariat that took Allen's head off following a jumping pile driver. I wrote that weird. He got a 2 off of it, and Kid goes to apply a sleeper hold, but Allen kicked out and kicked through into a flash pin, 1, 2, 3 out of nowhere. So this was the second match in a row that just had a out of nowhere flash pin victory. And I want to say the third match up to this point that also had one. So yeah, they went to the well on that one a little too much, I felt like. Nigel McGuinness correctly said that Allen didn't win the match, more so he survived this match. Referee Rick Knox then had to help Darby to his feet and help him up the ramp. Gabe Kidd was shown looking very pissed off that he lost. This match itself did go 12 minutes and 50 seconds. The previous match, the Babes of Wrath tag title match, 13 minutes. Then we had the party match. They called it the Mixed Nuts Mayhem, and there was a lot of mayhem here. This was Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong, and Tony Storm taking on Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia, and Marina Shafir. Again, this is our party match. This is we're just going to go out there and get as many people on the show style match and let them do a bunch of wild, random, crazy, dumb stuff. So it's like, this is not my style of match. It was a very well-worked match, I will say. But at the same time, it was a little, for me, a little too all over the place. So, tornado tag rules. No one had to tag in and out. You just go willy-nilly. First pin or submission wins the match, but it has to happen in the ring. And so I'm like, good thing they told us that, because they're brawling on the outside and they're doing all this stuff everywhere. And I felt like I saw Wheeler Yuta at one point, which what looked like he was going for a pin on the floor, but then like decided not to. So yeah. Speaking of Wheeler Yuta, there was a big FU Yuta chant early on. Briscoe then promptly kicked him in the ass, pleasing the crowd, until they dive wiped out Garcia. Strong then laid out Yuta with an angle slam, but Castagnoli was right there with a receipt for Strong, who knocked him out with a C2. Who knocked him out of the C2. Cassidy and Garcia then faced off in the ring, where Cassidy mocked Garcia's dance, so Garcia slapped on multiple submissions until a stun dog millionaire by Cassidy was connected. There was a single punch in the corner from Cassidy that amped up the crowd as Shafir came in and both put their hands in their pockets, but Marina put hers in her butt pockets. Shafir then fired off some kicks, swept the leg. Cassidy kicked up, low bridged her, kinda, sorta, to the floor as Yuta kicked Cassidy from behind. There was a lot of babyface men don't want to touch the women, or don't want to touch Marina, but Marina's wants to fuck with them. The heel men will touch Tony, but they won't actually do a move to Tony. So they have to stand there. I think it was Claudio at one point, had to stand there with Tony Storm in a powerbomb position for a good 60 seconds, if not longer, until I think it was Mark Briscoe finally came in and knocked him down. It looked awkward, because it's like, we want to tease that we're going to have a man powerbomb a woman, but we don't want to actually have a man powerbomb a woman. So we got to get away out of it. And yeah, it was a little weird. So the next couple of matches saw the Death Riders kind of take control. At one point, I think it was Claudio put a camel clutch on Briscoe. And as he did so, Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia climbed up on top of him as well. And then when Briscoe kind of wriggled out of it, Garcia just fell to his ass, but then pulled the Brock Lesnar and back rolled right out of that to safely make himself look fine. But at one point, Storm was in the ring. She went after Marina Shafir, who tried a Kimura, which Storm countered into a hip attack off the apron to the floor. Castagnoli grabbed Storm by the hair, but Briscoe made the save here. This is what I was talking about when she was going to go for the power bomb. Briscoe made the save, and he and Storm then mowed down Castagnoli with a double shoulder tackle. And she all of a sudden was like, "Oh my God, I did it! It really worked!" I didn't like that. It was like the woman was surprised that she did a move that knocked down a man, even though it was a move helped by another. It was a whole thing. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way that it was played. It's like Toni Storm does moves like this to the women. So what? Because the man's bigger, you don't think you can? I don't know. It was just weird. But where was I? Storm sent Briscoe to the outside to basically, she whipped Mark Briscoe towards the ropes, and he took a dive to the outside onto Yuta as Garcia tried to go after Toni Storm, but Cassidy made the save this time. It was two to tango. Basically, they pretended like they were dancing in the ring, hitting moves and spinning one another into another. So it was like Tony spun Orange and he hit a back elbow. I can't remember to who, maybe it was Yuta or Garcia. And then Cassidy did the same thing to Tony, and she back elbowed Marina. I think in the process, maybe a Sweet Cheek music was hit. There was a swinging DDT from Cassidy on Castagnoli as Briscoe flew off the top of the Froggy Bow, but only got a 2. Yuta and Garcia broke it up. Cassidy then tried to make the save, but suffered the same fate. Storm returned, faced off with both, sending them into one another, released German suplexes on both Garcia and Yuta until Shafir returned, boxed the ears, but Storm got a big package for a 2. Castagnoli then broke it up, placed Storm into the corner, so Storm slapped him in the face and hit a tornado DDT. Castagnoli then popped up and delivered a big giant swing to Toni Storm. Strong then sent Castagnoli packing with a big knee, leaving Strong and Shafir to face off as the crowd popped. Husband and wife. Shafir then punted him in the face. Strong chopped her in the back. Cassidy then hit an orange punch on Garcia as Storm followed this up with the Storm Zero. Yuta ate another orange punch as Storm hit a Sweet Cheek, and Briscoe returned to hit a J Driller to pick up the victory. A lot of chaos there at the end. Again, it was just a party match. I'm not the biggest fan of these party matches, but I thought for a party match, it was worked well. Post-match, the Babes of Wrath would come down to celebrate. Cassidy and Storm danced around a little bit more. Mina Shirakawa came down. Luther came down. This is all kinds of like, what are we doing? We're stalling for time. Let's get out of here. And then they had Marina, Orange, and Tony kind of like standing together. And Excalibur goes, "Did we just witness the birth of a throuple?" I'm like, what are you fucking, what? No. So then Lexi Nair's in the back, and she's looking to speak with Mercedes Moné, who storms in all pissed off and goes into, I guess you could say, her dressing room. And we hear, ah, ah, ah. She's all pissed off, screaming. She breaks a mirror and she throws some other things around. And the camera's like watching her in this crack of the door. And she's getting all pissed off. And then finally she walks out and goes, "All right, Lexi, let's do this." And she's like, "So Mercedes, the latter half of the end of 2025 has not been good for you." And she goes, "Excuse me? Did you say what I think you said? 2025 has not been good for me? I've had all these different accomplishments. Sports Illustrated said I was the Woman of the Year, and this, and TBS champion, and won all these titles, and multiple Moné." And Lexi's sitting there going, "That's not what I said. I said the end of the year." Like, she's like not into the mic, but she's like looking around going, "That's not how I said it. That's not what I said." It was funny. And then she's like, "You know what?" Because she was asked about being pinned by Willow. She goes, "You know what, Willow? You think you can beat me again? How about we do it? Singles match this Wednesday, New Year's Smash on Dynamite. I'm going to beat your fucking ass." And when she said that, she said, "fucking ass." And they didn't bleep her or anything. to the live crowd popped because they got F-bomb. And it has been officially announced that on Wednesday, AEW Dynamite New Year's Smash, 2 title matches will take place. Ricochet will defend the national title against Jack Perry, and Mercedes Moné will defend the TBS championship against Willow Nightingale. I guess again, like I said, I didn't see the full match on the pre-show, but I think Jack Perry pinned Ricochet, so they got him a title shot. I saw bits and pieces of that match. Moving forward, we had the low point of the night, I guess you would say. And you could tell they were working hard. But the crowd didn't care. I didn't care. Seemed like a lot didn't care. It was the AEW Women's World Championship. Chris Statlander versus Jamie Hayter. Getting late, guys. Both tried finishers early, but the other dodged. Till Hayter got the shoulder tackle to stand tall, but then Statlander was there to deliver one of her own. Both nodded in agreement. Let's do this again. What? I hate that kind of stuff. Hit me harder. I'm going to just stand here. Oh, you hit me hard. I hit you hard. Let's do it again. Like, no, I'm not a fan of that stuff. Because again, in a real fight, like, unless you're Anderson Silva in his prime, you're not going to just stand there and be like, hit me. Hit me. You're not going to hurt me. Oh, I could just move. Oh, I could just move, you know? Anyways, Hayter was at one point thrown down to the floor. Statlander tried her swinging moonsault, but Hayter dodged. Statlander then landed on her feet, but recovered enough to send Hayter into the steps, back inside, a back suplex into a Vader bomb by Statlander, who remained in the driver's seat with the crowd doing dueling chants-ish. They were kind of chanting for both. Not really. Hayter then battled back, clotheslining Statlander to the floor, but her feet were swept out from under her, and she was slammed to the commentary table and the barricade. While on the Spanish announce table, Hayter connected with a missile drop kick to the floor. She splatted hard. And Statlander folded herself up. Statlander then responded in the ring with a snapmare driver and a cradle sit-out slam for a 2. Both ladies then slugged it out, with Hayter winning the exchange as Statlander crawled to the apron to try and recover. Hayter wouldn't let up as she dragged Statlander up and hit an avalanche exploder for a near fall. At one point, there was a package pile driver that got a close 2. Statlander slipped through an attempted move from Hayter at one point, but Hayter then just punched her. Statlander rejoined Hayter up top, where she planted Hayter with a spinning avalanche fisherman's driver. Statlander then wanted a Haterade, but Hayter dropped Statlander on her head with a suplex off the top, followed by a Shining Wizard for a 2. Hayter then signaled for her finish yet again, wanting to go for the Haterade, but Statlander matrixed out of it, only to eat a thrust kick. Both ladies were trading heavy shots here towards the end of the match until Statlander slapped Hayter, pissing off the challenger as Statlander hit the Haterade. Only Hayter responded with a Saturday Night Fever for another double down. Champion and challenger then pulled themselves up. They were swinging big shots. Hayter connected first, but as Hayter went for her finish, Statlander countered in a Saturday Night Fever and pinned her to pick up the victory. So again, not a bad match, but I was never really invested in the match, didn't really care for the match, and the crowd not really caring for most of it didn't help at all either. That match itself, let's see, the last 2 matches, the Mixed Nuts match went 12.5 minutes, and that match went 18 minutes, and it felt all of that 18 minutes because that match felt long. So then Don Callis is in the back with Kazuchika Okada. They're just cutting promos about the upcoming finals of the Continental Classic, and he said, well, we've never seen Moxley before versus Okada. And with all the talk of the unified championship, when Okada wins tonight, he'll remain the unified champion as he'll go back to back winning the Continental Classic. Callis said a few weeks ago, Moxley tried to intimidate him. So New Year's Revolution, it's revenge. So his New Year's Revolution is revenge. And here's my question. Now that Moxley's got the Continental title, because winning the Continental Classic, that should, in theory, no longer make Okada the unified champion? Does that mean we've now brought back the what is it? International championship? Let me see. We already have a national championship. Has they updated anything on their roster yet? They've updated MJF 1. So, okay, so they've updated a few things. Okay, so here it is. Oh, wow, we already got a picture and everything. Moxley is the AEW Continental Champion, and Okada is only the International Champion. There is no longer listed a Unified Champion. There is no longer a AEW Unified Champion listed. There is a Continental and an International separate. Okay, good to see. And we've already got new renders of Moxley and Okada with just those belts. Working quick. Moxley was backstage and said for years he's heard about this Rainmaker being the top of the food chain. The C2 is a beautiful thing. Win, lose, or draw, it's all about the passion. It's what you dreamed about. Showing the world you'd give your life for this. C2 is a hill worth dying on. And he told Okada, you're going to have to kill me. They're really trying to get this Continental Classic over big like it's the G1, but it's not. And I get it. We still got to, build up the lore and the history of this. It's only what, the third Continental Classic. So, as far as this match does go, Okada wanted a handshake early, but Moxley flipped them off as the crowd started chanting, Green Bay sucks. I was like, okay then. Okada got one shot in on the leg, forcing Moxley to go to the outside and regroup. Both have an intense face-off. They go back in the ring, but Okada picked the ankle, zoning in on the bad leg. While placed in the corner, Okada hit his drop kick, but instead of tumbling immediately to the outside, Moxley's leg got caught on the ropes. Kind of saw this earlier as well. Quickly out after, Okada spiked Moxley with the DDT and continued his slow assault by dropping Moxley knee first on the steps. Moxley tried firing up with some chops, but didn't really get much of it when he was on one leg, basically. Okada then sank in a leg lock as Moxley headbutted his way out of it, but Okada recovered quickly enough to hit a sliding drop kick and a back elbow that saw Moxley just kind of crumble to the mat. There's a slingshot senton followed by an air raid crash neck breaker as Okada slowly made the cover for a 2, but he didn't try hard enough. There's a zero elevation elbow drop that led to a smiling Okada flipping off the crowd until Moxley grabbed the finger, swung, and decked Okada with a lariat. Okada then tried another drop kick in response, but Moxley put on the brakes and sank in a figure 4 leg lock. Okada got to the ropes to break the hold. At one point, Moxley wanted to go for a paradigm shift after hitting a gotch-style pile driver, but Okada spun out of it and tried to send Moxley into the referee, who put on the brakes as the referee covered up. Okada then punted Moxley low and hit a Rainmaker, but Moxley kicked out. Okada then went outside and grabbed the Continental title, bringing it back into the ring, but referee Stephon Smith caught him, taking the title away. The distraction gave Moxley a chance to return the favor with a low blow of his own, allowing a reset of sorts with Moxley recovering. There's another forearm exchange from both men as Moxley switched to jabs, but ran into a signature Okada drop kick. Moxley then stood up as Okada got a backslide with wrist control and hit the Rainmaker. Holding on, Moxley kicked out of a second one countered into a paradigm shift, but Okada kicked out. So it's back to Bulldog choke and rear naked choke. Okada tried a Rainmaker, but Moxley ducked it into a Rainmaker of his own, followed by a paradigm shift. Okada kicked out of 1. There's a curb stomp from Moxley as the crowd got really into it here. He spiked Okada with a Death Rider and pinned him 1, 2, 3 to win the Continental Classic. So the Death Riders then come out to celebrate with him afterwards, and Moxley asked for a microphone from Tony Schiavone, who had climbed in the ring to do an interview. Tony Schiavone is in there. Claudio hands Moxley the title, puts it around his waist, I believe, if I remember correctly. Schiavone then puts over Moxley's big accomplishments. As Moxley said, to hell with all of that. This title isn't mine. And he takes the title and he holds it up because this title belongs to everybody. Everybody that busted their ass in this tournament and all the fans who support professional wrestling. He said, they own it. And we owe it to you to give you everything that we have every time we step into this ring. We owe it to, he said, I owe it to my teammates. And I owe it to the hardest working professional athletes in the entire world. He said that he doesn't just mean in this ring with him, but everybody in AEW who shows up, quote, every fucking day and will continue to do so. as there is no organization like All Elite Wrestling. We give 100% every damn time, and it's what the fans and this job deserves. So great rah-rah speech promo there at the end after winning the tournament, and there's the babyface turn right there. Moxley then says, oh no, Danielson on commentary, this was an interesting one, goes, that's basically what Moxley's been saying this whole time, but he's now saying it in a slightly different way. Basically saying, I want everyone to show that they'll bust their ass for this company and this business. It's what I've been asking for. But now he's saying it as a babyface instead of a heel. Esports Gaming Rule says, do you see AJ Styles refusing to sign a replica AEW World Championship belt at a WWE live event? No, I have not seen that, because the only thing I saw from the live event tonight was a video of CM Punk doing a gender reveal, because that was sent to me by somebody at the show who said, hey, if you want, you can post this on all your social stuff. So other than that, I haven't seen anything from the live event tonight for WWE. I only saw what was directly DM'd to me by a fan that was there live in the building, who said, hey, if you want to use this video, go for it. That match itself, as far as the Continental Classic Finals, did go 20 minutes and 10 seconds. And then we're at our main event. The AEW World Championship on the line. Samoa Joe defending against Hangman Adam Page, Swerve Strickland, who came out as the Green Lantern, and MJF. So, Page and Joe paired off as Strickland and MJF paired off early. Joe was sent to the outside while MJF tried to cheap shot Hangman, only to take a fallaway slam and was sent onto the apron. The springboard lariat caught MJF as Joe returned and walloped Page with a chop and an enziguri, running boot to face of Page as MJF was sent to the floor until Strickland targeted the taped up elbow of Joe and punt kicked him. MJF hit a gritty to mock Strickland and did his running start pelvic thrust into the face of Strickland, who popped up and delivered an uppercut. Strickland then followed this up with the Fosbury flop to the outside on MJF, but Joe wiped him out with the tope. Page then flew into the camera shot with the Orihari moonsault, overshooting Strickland and Joe, but clipping MJF and holding his jaw. That didn't look fun at all. He overshot it all. Finally, we're fighting back inside the ring. MJF wanted a heat seeker on Strickland, who avoided it, sidestepped MJF, and hit a springboard, a swerve, a stomp off the apron to the outside. Page delivered a buckshot off the back of Strickland to take out Joe, leaving Page and Strickland to face off in the ring and go nuts. There's a slugfest that ensued, each getting in some big bombs before Strickland spun out in the ropes. Page floated over a powerbomb attempt into an O'Connor roll and got a 2 off of it. Page then flipped out of the corner, wanted a tombstone. Strickland reversed into a deadeye, and Page dodged a house call with a lariat and hit a buckshot. And big moves aplenty here, as I stated, with Joe breaking up the pin. Joe then wanted to go for a muscle buster, but Page saved Strickland at first. He wanted an avalanche fallaway slam, but Joe put a stop to all that with a powerbomb, both onto a returning MJF. Joe then went to go for the cover on everybody, but they kicked out at 2. Joe wanted to go for a muscle buster on Strickland, who rolled out into a rolling cutter on MJF. There's an up kick to Joe as Strickland followed with a German suplex. Page then came in. Strickland slid underneath with a giant power slam for a near fall. Joe then charged for a splash on Strickland in the corner as Page came in. Strickland slid underneath into a power bomb and got a near fall off of it. Joe then charged for a splash on Strickland in the corner as Page sent MJF crashing to the outside yet again before planting Strickland with the Angel's wings. At one point, Page missed a corner charge on MJF, who connected with his double stomp to the arm out of the corner. There was a water wheel drop to Strickland, chucking him into Joe in the corner. Page missed a buckshot lariat. MJF missed a heat seeker, but connected on a slingshot cutter before sinking in the salt of the earth, right as Joe applied a Coquina clutch on Strickland, forcing MJF to break his submission to stop the other submission. Coquina clutch was applied to MJF then, who wanted the salt of the earth on Joe. A callback to Joe winning the title in 2023, but Strickland flew in with a house call. MJF rolled through a big pressure into a roll-up, poked the eye. Page and Strickland then laid out MJF while both kipped up to avoid a charging Samoa Joe, who took him down before swinging at each other yet again. A lot more starts happening here, like a lot where the ops eventually run down and they start appearing and attacking people. And I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Where's the DQ here? Oh, wait, it's Fatal 4-Way. Okay. So, Fatal 4-Way, there's no DQ. Because if you DQ the champ or you DQ anybody, then who actually wins? You know? Anyways, like I said, the ops appear and they're all fighting on everybody. And I think Joe planted Paige. Yeah, Joe planted Paige here with the Muscle Buster, but Paige kicked out. Hook argued with the referee as Joe instructed Hobbs and Shibata to dispatch of Prince Nana, but didn't see Strickland fly off the top with a swerve stomp on both. Paige waffled Joe with a right hand and turned to Hook. Joe sank in a cookie in a clutch. Strickland managed a swerve stomp over Paige and to catch Joe flush as the referees are forcing the ops to get out of here. He's basically yelling at them to leave, even though, it's 4-way, so it's kind of legal. The one time they try to enforce the rules is when, well, there are no really rules. Yeah. This fucking company. Anyways, Joe went up to the corner with Strickland. And Excalibur goes, look like he's going to go for an avalanche of muscle buster. And then he's just trying to go for like a superplex. But it was all for nothing because it was reversed into a power bomb. And then Swerve went for another swerve stomp, but MJF launched him off the top head first into the side of the announce table. Paige then flew in with 2 buckshots on Joe, who wouldn't go down until third. MJF then shoved Joe out of the way. He kicked Paige low and hit a heat sinker on Joe to win the match and the belt. There we go. MJF and new AEW World Champion. And they play this up big on commentary. Like, he's a real generational talent. 2-time world champion before the age of 30. Who's done that? Many. Bryan Danielson reminded us how insufferable his last world title reign was that went over 400 days and said, I can't imagine what this one's going to be like. That match itself did go 20 minutes and 35 seconds. They went off the air pretty quickly right after. So, yeah, MJF is your new AEW World Champion. Now, overall, I thought this was a great show. I thought this was a very good show. It went, if you watched the pre-show, 5 hours. If you didn't watch the pre-show, it's the 8, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, it went 4 hours. But honestly, it flowed so well that it didn't feel that long. It really didn't. So, overall, give this show an A+. This was a really, really good AEW pay-per-view. With that, you know what I thought of the show. Now it's time to hear what you guys thought of the AEW Worlds End pay-per-view. So let's go check the polls. As far as the Twitter X poll does go, 60% liked the show, 33% thought it was just all right, and 6% didn't like it. Looking at the Threads poll, 68% liked the show, 27% thought it was just all right, and 5% didn't like it. Looking at the community poll, 75% liked the show, 18% thought it was just all right, and 7% didn't like it. And finally, 80% liked the show. As far as the live polls go, 80% liked the show, 11% thought it was just all right, and 8% didn't like it. With that, guys, that is going to wrap everything up. I want to say thank you for joining us here. Twitch.tv/PW Unlimited, YouTube.com/Pro Wrestling Unlimited, and podcast services all around the globe like Stitcher, Spotify, Google Pod, Apple Pod, Anchor, iHeartRadio, and so much more. With that, guys, we'll be back live on Monday for Monday Night Raw. Have a great rest of your weekend.